Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm speaking to one of my friends, and what I want to do right is actually to interview entrepreneurs who are what we call COVID-19 ready. That means they know how to navigate in this current situation and don't let the situation um, actually impact their business as much, and actually be able to thrive in this environment. Okay, so I'm speaking to Rajiv Misra. He's actually a tuition specialist, a tutor who helps students with their physics and chemistry, and they are those students who are preparing for O levels. Okay, so Rajiv, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Lionel?
Good. So I guess a lot of people don't know much about you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I run a tuition center where we teach O-level physics and chem. And basically, what we do is that for physics, especially, we actually conduct live experiments where we show how everyday things can be used to teach physics. So I think it's very boring for most of the students to just learn from a textbook or just slides. So what we tend to do is whatever equipment we have a lot of equipment that we use during our lessons to teach, and also teaching aids. Even for chem, also we try our best to integrate videos, and also we try our best to get hold of videos on chem experiments. That helps out in students doing well, and we have noticed that students learn very well in this type of environment. Yeah.
So when this current situation came about, the COVID-19, um, what are the challenges actually you actually face during this situation?
Okay, because the problem was initially a lot of tuition centers didn't think that we were going to be affected initially, because I think the government did a very good job at the beginning portion of it, especially when how they were doing contact tracing and they had all these measures in place. But there was something nagging at me, and I felt that I think it was time to start looking into online lessons. So I actually did a few trial lessons before the suspension was declared. So in a way, it wasn't so bad for me because I already had all the technology ready, and I've already prepped my students for the online format. So it wasn't so bad. And actually, it's a funny story because I have zero knowledge on Zoom. And what happened was, I think 3 years ago, actually, I owe this really big thanks to one of my other parents. The parents did not want to do the lesson face to face. They wanted to do it, what you call, online. And I was very averse to the idea because, I mean, tuition is a very physical arrangement. But the problem is that he was insistent on this because he was staying very far, but he wanted his child to benefit from my teaching abilities. So I got all the equipment ready, and I got familiar with the software. So after that, what do you call that assignment, there was no need for doing online lessons. But when this COVID situation arose, I was in a way kind of prepared. So I actually thank that parent for preparing me. So that's why I believe that if anything wrong or anything bad happens to you, there's always a silver lining to it. There's always something that life is trying to teach you. It's trying to get you ready for a bigger, what you call, a challenge ahead. So I think that's what that parent was doing for me.
Oh, okay, very interesting. So I just want to make sure everybody watching now understands. When you say online, when you did this online lesson 3 years ago for this particular student, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it is this. It is not a pre-recorded uh, video lesson that you just upload and he watch himself, right?
No, definitely not pre-record. I think pre-record is a very lazy way of teaching because I mean we have seen teachers even when we went to school, the relief teachers, if they wanted to just Skype, they would just show us video, and I feel that pre-recorded lessons is akin to that. That's a very lazy way of teaching. But what I do is it's very live online lessons, so I could be teaching the same chapter 5 times. But the problem is that when you interact with different students, different things come out, and you highlight different points. So I feel that every lesson is different. So it's unfair to the parent and what I call the student, especially, to rob them of that learning experience.
I
So yeah.
see. I see. So just to be clear, it will these online lessons are actually live Zoom sessions where you get to interact directly with your students,
Oh,
correct?
yes. Yes.
Okay. And the students, their webcams are all on, I assume, so that you can have like a back and forth interaction and make sure you get the signals from them.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's very important is normally I mean this for the other educators out there is that you could just give a set of rules at the beginning of the lesson so that the interaction is as close as to life. Because if you don't tell the students what are the rules are, then what will happen is you're spending a major part of the lesson just trying to handle technical issues. So yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So can you share a bit about what are the kind of rules that you set?
Okay, a few rules. I mean, what's very important is these are basic stuff, but some of the students tend to forget. When you put the camera, always make sure that light is falling on your face, not light coming from behind. Because when light comes from behind, your face is a total shadow. So for the other viewer out there, we cannot see the expression, so it's counterintuitive. A few things. What I'll do is I'll get them to also. There's like a group chat function on Zoom. So normally at the beginning of a lesson, I would tell them to write hi so that they know where it is. So that if they have questions in between or what, they can always put it up in the chat function. And honestly, I find that the online live lesson has a lot more interaction than compared to the physical environment. So because the thing is that you have the anonymity, you can kind of ask your teacher without your friends knowing that you're asking this question. So I think that's one plus factor with online lessons. Yeah, online live lessons. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting point, because in a live environment, a student might be very shy or feel very inadequate to ask a question, you know,
Yes.
and get judged by other students.
True.
But
True.
when you
True.
do it this way, I mean you don't call out the name, nobody knows.
Yeah, because we in the Zoom function you have that you can message someone privately without everybody else knowing. So that helps a lot. I find that I've noticed that students who normally don't ask in the physical environment, they are asking a lot more in the online environment. So I'm very happy with that because that helps with their learning.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. So I understand. From what I understand, what I understand from you, you actually started all this you group online. I would call it group online live coaching via Zoom. Quite early on, right? I mean, like beginning of this year, you actually started a few already.
Yeah. So because I think the whole COVID thing, or actually it started off with Wuhan coronavirus. That's how it started off, and then they decided to name it COVID-19. Around that period of time already, I had a feeling that uh, we would have to start doing online lessons. So that's why I started prepping my students for it, because I was worried that I didn't want them to lose out, because you must understand that a lot of my students are Sec 4 students, and I cannot let a suspension affect their learning curve, because at the end of the day, the O levels has a fixed date and most probably they're not going to change it. So if let's say we were to go, if we don't do lessons for 1-2 months, that could cause a lot of damage. So I felt that it was my duty to make sure that the learning continues. So yes.
I see. Yes, because I understand that our government leaders announced I think like last week that all tuition centers have to be suspended, like last
Yep.
Thursday, I think. And a lot of people are not given much notice on that.
True,
And
true.
what I did is I was actually quite kaypoh lah. So I go and comb, the Facebook pages of what are the tuition centers generally are doing.
All
And
right.
I realized, right, majority of the bigger centers, that means with bigger capacity, they will either opt for option A, which is they suspend all classes until 30th April, and
Yeah.
parents can submit questions and answers via some forum, and still submit assessment.
Yeah.
And I mean, the students are, the parents are still charged the same fees, but just no
Yeah.
lessons. You can submit your homework and all that. Or option B, a lot of they are doing this option, or option B, they are loading up pre-recorded live video lessons for the students to
Yeah.
watch and do homework. Right. So I observe they are doing these two options, but what you're offering is a little bit very different. That means it's still the same as the physical environment that you're providing.
Yes, so I'm trying to mimic as close to the physical environment as possible. So, I mean, I do have students complaining that they still like the physical environment, which is natural. But with the situation that it is in Singapore, we don't know what the future might be. So, I think it is best to make sure that they can at least be familiarized with the online environment. And that's what we do for the lessons now. So, I try to mimic as close as possible. But what's important is that they're able to learn and they're able to score at quizzes and exams. Yeah,
Okay. So just a little bit of background about you, right? You
yeah,
started tuition, teaching science to O-level students for I think about 15 years, since
yeah,
2005, right? 15 years.
yeah. So yeah,
Um,
about yeah,
so
should be about
currently
16. Yeah.
every session you have a limit on the number of students, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, what I do is I limit about to 8 because the problem is that I've noticed if it gets too big, it's natural. One human can only focus on so many people. The 1 to 40 ratio is ridiculous, which is in our school classes. That is very difficult for one teacher to actually make sure that every student is learning. For me, even the 1 to 20, it is still too big. So I've noticed, I've done a few tests, and I realized that the 1 to 8 is optimal. So the thing is that it is big enough that the students will be learning off each other, and I'm also able to make sure that everybody is understanding. But once it goes beyond 10 students, then what happens is learning drops. So for me, I would say yes, definitely I'm a business, but I also think it's very important for me that every child does well. And I do not want to just treat a child as a number. For me, what's important is that they are able to understand the topic well and they are able to score. So that's why for me, I wouldn't say that my center is just a business, but what we are trying our best is to make sure that every student that comes through our doors learn physics and chem the best way, and not just is a number in our class.
Because I understand that when you just started, you did one-to-one tuition as well. Like
Yeah.
those some. So would you say that the quality is compromised in a group eight, one to like yourself, 1 to 8, or versus one-to-one, or is it actually that is the student experience actually better in a small group environment?
I mean, again, the best environment that there will always be is a one-to-one. There's no doubt about it. Because if I were to say anything else, I'll be lying. But the problem is that if you notice, a lot of the good tutors, they will eventually end up doing group tuitions because eventually there is just so much of demand and I cannot satisfy it by one-to-one because I have only so many hours in the day. So in order to be able to reach out as many students as possible and to satisfy the demand, I have actually opted for the group lessons. I also have noticed that when you go into the group setting, what happens is students also learn off each other. Because what I normally do is that I will, if let's say a question like, there's 3 students, student A, B, and C, and let's say student A has a question. So what I'll do is, if I feel student C is, he knows the topic well, I'll ask student C to answer that question. And that way I can tell if student C understands the topic, and that way student A also learns. So I think that's one perk of the group tuition format too.
Okay, so I guess a lot of people are in their minds, right? They are thinking, what an online lesson with you will be like.
Yeah.
Whether I think as a parent myself, I would be concerned, right? What will it be like, and will the learning experience be compromised? So, is there any way you can show us how you would typically conduct an online live lesson with your students?
Oh, definitely. Okay, an example would be this, like what you see on the screen. So basically, it is very close to how I'll do it in a normal class. So I'll be going through the slides, I'll be explaining to them, and I can actually write on the screen. So I'll say like, H, what does H represent? What does density represent? And I can, show them. I can even say that, okay, this G means gravitational field strength, that type of thing. And the beauty of being able to do it online is you have many more functions. Like example, I can even draw on the screen, or they can draw on my screen. So example, do you want to just try writing on my screen? I think you're able to write on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just need to go to the annotate function, and you can write draw. I think annotate and go to draw.
Annotate, hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me try. So now I'm pretending I'm your student,
All
and
right.
you're asking me to solve something inside here.
Yeah.
So I'll just move to this blue colored cylinder. I write hello. Oh,
Okay, so like if you can see on the screen, right, the name Lionel Sim as you're writing,
uh-huh.
okay, you just say, maybe you can write in this column here, in this side.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can put hello here.
Hello.
So
Oh,
you
okay,
see
okay.
Lionel Sim. So on my screen, I can see Lionel Sim is writing it. So that way I know who is attempting. And it's a very interactive session because you can, what you call, write on the screen, I can write on the screen, and that way we learn better. Now, other than that, what else I can do is that, like example, I'll be going through is the worksheet. So example, okay, so this one is done. So let's just say after I've already taught the topic, then what I normally do is I'll go into the worksheet. So normally I will email them the worksheet. So I will show them, okay, this is a question. So I want you guys to do question 1. So they'll go ahead, do the question, and then they will put in the chat function their answer. So I'll wait for everybody who's done with the answer. And then I will, if those are wrong and they need further understanding, then what I do is I go into the whiteboard. So with the whiteboard, what happens is, I can show them that, hey, pressure equals the force over area, and you need certain units here and certain units here. So the basic idea is that it's very interactive, and that way actually learning is definitely more improved. So I'm actually looking at in the future to integrate my online classes with my offline classes, because there's a lot of functions in Zoom that we can use that even offline students can benefit from. So yeah, so I think this is how a normal class would run. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Very cool. So Rajiv, basically, right, I think everybody in Singapore has been receiving a lot of messages from our leaders, and uh, what we can see is that they have been very transparent, and they are not really painting a very optimistic picture at the moment. And um, even last week, our DPM has actually released a resilience package that helps everybody, you are employees, companies, entrepreneurs, self-employed. Um, there is this portion that actually helps people like probably you and me, those are people who are self-employed, in the gig industry. Um, what are your thoughts on this package? How do you feel about this package in general after you heard the news?
In general, okay, I would not want to go to I don't want to be too political about this, but I will just view it as the task that the government has done. I think it's fabulous because they didn't need to do it. I mean, for freelancers, they don't really need to provide for us. It is not their job because they've already given us a stable job climate. They've given us an environment where we can thrive. Now, in terms of what they've done, I would say that that's a bonus. So for freelancers, I think it's amazing what we've got, and we are actually living in a country where the government actually cares about freelancers. Because if you look at other countries, I'm not sure about their packages, but I don't think freelancers or small business owners are considered very high on their priority list. I mean, the government could have just saved the big businesses and just ignore us small guys. But whatever they tried doing for us, even how, no matter how small it is an effort altogether. And I thank the government for doing that. So definitely the government has been very transparent with us and also has tried their level best to help us. So I think they did a great job at it. I mean, you can't expect the government to be paying us what we earn on a average month. That would be ridiculous because then the government will go bankrupt because there's so many small business owners. I think what they have done is commendable.
Yes, I agree totally. And the thing is, for us, I guess for us, we are very similar. We're entrepreneurs, right? So this comes as a big surprise because we are used to adapting to the environment, whatever how harsh the environment is. What kind of advice do you have for the entrepreneurs like us in the times ahead? Like how do they should 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 they be not reliant on whatever the government is giving them, or they should actually use this time to um, build up their business or train or whatever?
Um, okay, number one, I think if you have chosen to be an entrepreneur, you're kind of not wanting or you're not waiting for someone to pay you. In the nature of itself, you are actually trying to earn your own keep. So if you're a true blue entrepreneur or if you're a true blue business owner of your own, you will most probably try to adapt to the situation. Number two, I don't think you will be very looking into the what the government hands out. So if you wanted that, you would have just joined a government job. But most probably you being an entrepreneur, you have wanted to earn your own keep and you're willing to do whatever is needed. I think what's very important with this whole COVID-19 situation is that we have to learn that Singapore is open to such issues. That means we are liable to have problems like this even in the future, and we will always have to be, or as entrepreneurs, we will always have to be at the cutting edge of technology so as to keep our businesses afloat. Because honestly, if let's say I was one of those tutors where I did not want to use technology and I wanted to still stick to what you call the physical environment, the lessons, then I might just go out of business. And we don't know how long this suspension might occur. This 1 month thing could be just maybe it's just a testing ground. They might suspend it for 2, 3, 4, maybe a year. We never know. But I think what's very important, what this whole pandemic has taught us, is that we will have to learn how to use technology and always be ahead of it.
Okay, Rajiv, thanks very much for sharing all this with us. I'm sure there are people who are watching who actually pick up some very useful tips from you, especially those people who are in the teaching arena, whether they are tutors, even people who are teaching adults. I think they will actually benefit from what you taught just now. So on the end note, right, the times are different now, and nobody knows how to navigate forward. What the future is like. Even nobody knows that 2 weeks, 3 weeks, will this thing die down, or will it go for better or worse, right? But of course, now we are seeing signs that it could get worse. Everybody will start to stay at home, and for us, we need to be able to navigate and adapt, and pivot based on the situation to see where our business are going, in the going forward direction. Okay, so I hope to do small series of this. And before I end off, maybe I'll check in with Rajiv whether he has any ending words for the entrepreneur.
If there is one takeaway from this series or interview, is that you will have to utilize technology, or not you will be left behind. So I think that's the one takeaway that anybody who's watching this video should absorb. So yeah.
All right, thanks very much. I hope to catch up with Rajiv soon and maybe do another interview. Because
All right.
we have to keep learning and adapting, and we hope to bring more value to our audience. Okay, so with that, we end the interview. Thanks very much, Rajiv, for your time.
Okay, see you, Lionel.
Okay, thank you. See you.